So now we've crossed the Tiber River out of Trastevere, and this is the Tiber Island. You know, it's called a Tiberine Island. And on there is a hospital that's still going strong today, established a couple of thousand years ago. And look at this old great ancient Roman temple. See this on the right, look. And the temple of the Vestal Virgins on the right-hand side, the circular one. You know, the Vestal Virgins, they had to take care of the eternal flame. And, you know, they had to take a vow of chastity. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're driving up onto one of the 7 hills of Rome. You know, people often ask where are these 7 hills? Well, usually, you know, you don't know where they are because they've been built over. But in Rome, in the centre of Rome, you seem to be always walking up and down hills, so you're reminded of the fact that Rome was built on 7 hills. And we are now up on the Abensine Hill, which in the old days is where the ladies of the street used to hang out. Not anymore, these days.
Where do they hang out now?
Well, I don't know. But up here on the right, you see where the lights are? These are some of the most expensive residences in town on the Aventine. And look over there to the left. Illuminated over there are the ancient palaces of the Caesars, of the Roman emperors. That's why we get the word palace from the word Palatine. The Palatine Hill is where those buildings are. See, so we are on the Abensine Hill, looking down onto that flat area below, which is the Circus Maximus, and above, where the building is illuminated, onto the palaces of the emperors on the Palatine Hill. The Circus Maximus here, you see on the left, this empty space here, that was where they had the chariot races. Did you see the movie Ben-Hur?
Yeah.
But that's where those chariot races should have taken place, you see. The chariots had to go 7 times around the spine, the spinner. See? And the emperors, of course, they had a good view from the terrace of their palace. They could see the events take place here. And they say that this is where the Christians were thrown to the lions at the Circus Maximus. The building facing us is the Fao Building. Not a very interesting building architecturally, but it is an agency of the United Nations, the Food and Agriculture Organization, headquartered in Rome, FAO. Do you know, ladies and gentlemen, according to Pliny, the historian, the Circus Maximus here could hold 400,000 people. Now, there's no stadium anywhere in the world today that can hold 400,000 people. And historians say, look, that's impossible. Pliny must have been exaggerating. Let's cut that figure down by half. Let's say that instead of 400,000 people, it held 200,000 people. Well, I don't think there are many stadiums anywhere that can hold 200,000 people. But you see, it's mostly disappeared because it was built of wood. There's not much left of the Circus Maximus. You know, people imagine that it was at the Colosseum that the Christians were thrown to the lions. But, you know, all the historians say that it happened at the Circus Maximus. And all the guides will tell you that it happened at the Circus Maximus and not at the Colosseum. Nevertheless, there's a new theory out that as there's no proper evidence one way or the other, and as it is known that wild animals were kept at the Colosseum to fight against gladiators, it made sense, actually, for the Christians to be thrown to the lions at the Colosseum, because it's much easier to bring a human to a wild animal than a wild animal to a human. But that's a new theory. The remains of an old aqueduct. You know, the Romans had aqueducts that brought in water into Rome from a distance of 70 miles. The ancient Romans had as much water 2,000 years ago as the modern Romans have today. The water had to feed the public baths and also the private baths and the fountains. And this is the Colosseum, folks, here on the left. Nice. Colosseum, so called because there was a very large statue called the Colossus of the Emperor Nero outside. But the ancient Romans wouldn't have known the name Colosseum. They would have called this building the Flavian Amphitheater, because it was built by the Flavian emperors, in other words, by Vespasian and Titus and Domitian. And can you see the holes in the building? See the holes? That was not caused in World War II because Rome was an open city. The Germans simply withdrew and retreated further north, and no damage took place in Rome during World War II, luckily. But that was caused in the Middle Ages when people simply came here and helped themselves to the bronze and iron clamps which were used to hold together those blocks of travertine stone. So 100,000 blocks of travertine stone from Tivoli, which we're going to see tomorrow on our optional tour, were brought here to make this Colosseum from the quarries of Tivoli, held together by iron clamps. I suppose you could say this was the first skyscraper ever built, because you know the ancient Greeks, they could put one block of stone above an existing block, but they were afraid to build higher because the whole thing could fall over like a pack of cards. But the Romans, they knew of the vaulted arch, which they had taken from the Etruscans that preceded them, and they themselves invented mortar. So using mortar and the vaulted arch with a keystone, they could build a third, a fourth, and even higher skyscrapers. The capacity, ladies and gentlemen, of the Colosseum was 50,000. The 50,000 could be entered or cleared of the Colosseum in 25 minutes. That was incredible organization for those days. Above each of those doors, see those arches, there is a Roman numeral, which we'll be able to see better tomorrow in the daylight. And we have never been able, even today, we have never been able to improve on the ancient Roman idea of an amphitheater. All of our stadiums today are the same idea, just circular shapes like that with entrances all the way around. Am I right? I'm right. Right, yeah. Now this amphitheater was used for gladiatorial combats. Gladiators were trained in special schools to fight against each other and against wild beasts for the pleasure of the crowds. And for 400 years, the slaughter took place. Thousands of animals, thousands of humans also were slaughtered in the Colosseum, until with the arrival of Christianity it came to an end. Not actually with the arrival of the first Christian emperor, Constantine, but 80 years after that, an empress finally stopped the slaughter. Look at this on the left-hand side. You see, we've passed those maps which show the rise of Rome from just a little dot until the Mediterranean became Mare Nostrum, our lake. And that building there on the left, illuminated, is an ancient Roman building, a couple of thousand years old. Look at it, looks like a modern building of today. Yeah? It was originally the Basilica of Maxentius, and afterwards became the Basilica of Constantine, the first Christian Roman emperor. We're driving along the street of the Imperial Fora, laid out by Mussolini. Now we're going to enter the Forum. I don't know if we should, because it's not illuminated. I think it's really, disgraceful that the city of Rome has not turned on the lights to show us the Forum illuminated, but there you are. But the Forum is very important. Forum Romanum, a Roman Forum, comes from the Latin word fore, to bring. In other words, to bring for trade purposes. We have forum, a market. And that was the original purpose of it. It was a market for two tribes. The tribe of Romans, who lived on the Palatine Hill, and the tribe of Sabines, who lived on the Quirinal Hill, which is back behind us. Now, the Romans came down from the Palatine Hill, which is out there on the right-hand side with the trees. We saw the other side of it with the palaces on it, remember? Palatine Hill. They came down from the Palatine Hill. They were just shepherds living on that one hill. And the Sabines would come down from their hill from here. And they would meet in the valley, and they would trade. You've heard of the rape of the Sabine women. It's not exactly clear what happened, but after the rape of the Sabine women, the two tribes united. And what was formerly just a marketplace where they met for trade became the political and religious and commercial center of the united tribe. And then from here, Rome spread out until it covered the whole of present-day Rome, and then Italy, and then the whole of the Mediterranean. The whole of the known world, in fact, became Roman. Incredible. It was here, ladies and gentlemen, that Julius Caesar's body was brought after he was assassinated at Pompey's theatre, which we saw earlier on. And we know that a man got up on the rostrum, a stone pillar 4 feet high, and made a speech which swayed the crowd. It must have been a pretty powerful speech. The man's name was Mark Antony. The greatest poet since Homer has captured it. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So it must have been a pretty powerful speech like that. Now look here, that building there, folks, on the right. See? That is an ancient Roman building. It looks just like a modern building of today. It's been kept in use as a church. And whenever they had a use for an ancient Roman building, it has survived to this day. Unfortunately, a lot of the ancient Roman buildings were demolished, and people used the stones and the bricks to build elsewhere. For example, St. Peter's Church, a third of it has been built with stone, with travertine stone taken from the Colosseum. And we should not think, when we've come to have a look at those ancient Roman buildings there in the Forum, that we have come to see Italy's or Rome's ancient ruins, nothing to do with us. On the contrary, we have come to see where our own civilization, our own religion, our own culture, our own ideas of law and justice originated. Because, you know, the Greeks had the dream of a democracy. They had wonderful dreams, but they weren't that practical. The Romans put into practice, realized the dreams of the ancient Greeks. So we've come to see where our own ideas of justice and so on started. After all, it was Cicero who said, it is far better that 20 guilty men go free than that one innocent man be unjustly convicted and sentenced. Here on the right-hand side, Trajan's column. The figure on the top is not of Trajan, the Roman emperor, but of St. Peter, because during the 16th century, Pope Sixtus V took down from their pedestals all the heathens and replaced them with saints. Here on the left, that's wedding cake, as the Americans called it, World War II. The monument to Victor Emmanuel II, built at the end of the 19th century, made of Botticino marble. There's the equestrian statue of the first king of Italy, Victor Emmanuel II. You know, when that building was inaugurated, they held a banquet inside the belly of the horse for 45 people. So it's much larger than it appears. It's an optical illusion. And you see the guard of honor there guarding Italy's unknown soldier. Can you see where the flame is? And the wreath? So Italy's unknown soldier is laid to rest there. They have to stand duty like that for 2 hours at a stretch. Down here, on the right-hand side, straight as a die, is the Via del Corso, the street of the race. From the Corsa, a Latin word for race. And the building on the corner with the green balcony is the Napoleonic Building, because Napoleon's mother, she died in that building. She was a kind old lady. She used to watch carriages go by and she used to wave to people, and it was there that she died. Napoleon became king of Italy, and he brought his mother to Rome to live here. The last time they had a race along that street was when Buffalo Bill came to Rome, and he raced against some Italians. According to the Italians won. And of course it's given rise to that famous poem by William Shakespeare, or somebody very famous like Goethe, or somebody really great. A girl who strolled on the Corso. You know it? You don't know it?
No.
A girl who strolled on the Corso displayed quite a lot of her torso. A crowd soon collected, but no one objected, but some were in favour of more so. Now, when we're coming back here, we've seen this before, but we'll see it again, the ruins of these 4 temples, A, B, C, and D, at the Piazza Argentina. Now they're on the right-hand side, very precious. Discovered 80 years ago, quite by chance. It's fascinating in Rome, and if you dig down underneath the existing level, you come across ancient Roman buildings, more or less. That's why it's taken so long to build the metro, the underground railway, because each time they attempt to extend the lines, the archaeologists come across ancient Roman ruins below. They have finally made it. They've extended the line a little bit, but Rome still doesn't have an underground railway like London or Paris, nothing like as extensive. There's a famous theatre on the left, can you see? Where some of the first performances of Rossini's operas took place, like for example the William Tell opera. See, the name of this street is Victor Emmanuel II, after the first king of Italy. From the seaside resort of Ostia. And Ostia used to be the port of Rome in the days of the ancient Romans. Talking about ancient Rome, you cannot help but talk about ancient Rome when you're doing any kind of drive around the city, because there are constant reminders, as I mentioned, of ancient Rome. SPQR everywhere, Latin. And you find it on the helmets of the police, on official proclamations, advertising theatres and cinemas. On the manhole covers, SPQR, Senatus Populosque Romanus, Senate and People of Rome. And also even the cobblestones in some of the very narrow streets put down by the ancient Romans, still in use today. Even a bridge, 62 BC, used, listen to this, used by cars, still in use today, an ancient Roman bridge. Because there are 24 bridges over the Tiber River in Rome. 20 of them are fairly modern, but 4 of them are really old and very worthwhile. And this is the spot, remember, where Julius Caesar was assassinated. On the site of this church, Church of Sant'Andrea, Pompey's Theatre. Look at this beautiful Renaissance fountain on the left-hand side. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon in 49 BC. And then there was no going back, because that meant that he was more or less declaring war on Rome. And only 5 years later, he was struck down by people who regarded themselves as patriots, who didn't want Caesar to become emperor. And it was Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, who was to become the first official emperor under the name Caesar Augustus. Over on the left, we can't get to it because it's closed to traffic. There's a very beautiful square. Look to the left here, Lamson. Look to the left, through here, at the Piazza Navona. Can you see through there, where the people are? There's a beautiful fountain there, designed by the great Bernini. The fountain of the 4 rivers. Here on the right-hand side is the Palazzo Madama, which is one of the 2 chambers of the Italian Parliament. This is the Senate building here on the right, because they have a House of Representatives and the Senate. The Piazza Navona, over there behind these buildings, follows the line of the exact dimensions of an ancient Roman amphitheater. The Missions Amphitheater. They used to flood it, and they used to have mock naval battles for the amusement of the crowds. Yeah. Keep on looking to the left, maybe you'll catch a glimpse. Look to the left, look there, see? See that? Now, did you see that obelisk? Another ancient Egyptian obelisk. There are 14 of them in Rome. They were going to demolish them because they were heathen symbols. And somebody thought up a very clever idea. Let's not demolish them. Let's instead put a cross on the top of each one. And that will be the triumph of Christianity over heathen religions. And that way they were able to keep them. London has one obelisk, ancient Egyptian obelisk, on the River Thames. That's called Cleopatra's Needle. Paris has one, and the Place de la Concorde. Rome has 14. Look at that on the left-hand side. That is a famous building, but it's not very old. It looks old. It is the Palace of Justice. And I'm afraid that it's been subsiding. It started to subside almost immediately. It's a popular joke that the first case held in that law court there was that of the architect who designed the building, because he did such a terrible job putting in inadequate foundations for that massive masonry decoration. But again, it was built at the end of the 19th century, the building, and has been restored, rebuilt virtually. In just a moment, we shall see the tomb of the Emperor Hadrian. The Emperor Hadrian was the greatest of the Roman emperors, I suppose. The two greatest Roman emperors were Hadrian and Trajan. It would be nice to say that Constantine was the greatest because he, after all, adopted Christianity, but he did so for political reasons rather than through any convictions that he had. Just over here, you see where the trees are on the right, those tall, elegant cypress trees. Can you see there's a stone, a building behind it, a circular building? There is the tomb of the Emperor Hadrian. And then behind the grass here on the right-hand side is a memorial to one of Trajan's victories. One of Hadrian's victories, sorry. So Hadrian's tomb, one of Hadrian's victories, is commemorated behind that glass modern building. According to legend, Rome was founded in 753 BC on the 21st of April. You know the legend. Twin babes, Romulus and Remus, brought up by a she-wolf, suckled by a she-wolf. That's why the symbol of Rome is a she-wolf suckling the twin babes, Romulus and Remus. Just a legend. But it's interesting that archaeologists have discovered that there was a settlement on the site of Rome as early as the 9th or 8th centuries BC. And if Romulus and Remus really did live, if they existed at all, it is known where they did live, on the Palatine Hill. Because only a matter of 10 years ago, maybe less than that, the archaeologists discovered on the Palatine Hill the site of the very first settlement in Rome.
Why isn't it called Rome?
Well, no, because it was founded by Romulus rather than Remus. You know, Romulus killed Remus, do you remember? And then Rome, you know, Rome, it carried on, I mean, at first, as any other city did. It was ruled by kings, a line of 7 kings. And the last of those kings, Tarquin the Proud, who was an Etruscan, was ousted in 505 BC, and then Rome became a republic, headed by 2 consuls. And that was the greatest period in Roman's history in some respects. The very energetic people of the Republic pushed the borders out, brought the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, Roman influence, laws, ideas of civilization. They spread them out over all the known world eventually. But then a figure appeared of a great statesman, general, lawgiver, Julius Caesar, who conquered areas in present-day France, which he called Gaul in 65 BC. And as I mentioned earlier, his adopted son, Octavian, founded the empire. Finally, however, I'm going to break off because we've come out into a big square. This is the Piazza del Popolo, the square of the people. There's another obelisk there on the left, ancient Egyptian obelisk with a scaffolding on it. It's under restoration because they had earth tremors just a couple of years ago. And since then, all of these ancient Roman buildings have been under restoration because those earth tremors really affected the buildings. This is a very popular square for political meetings. Up there on the right-hand side is the Pincio Hill, which is part of the Villa Borghese, very beautiful gardens. And ahead of us now, directly facing us, is an ancient gate, an ancient Roman gate, but Bernini, in the 17th century, converted it into a splendid entrance into Rome for the Queen of Sweden, Queen Christina of Sweden. And through that gate, can you see where those lights are, those cars? There's a road straight as a die. It is the Via Flaminia, the main road leading north out of Rome, built in 220 BC. And it is still today the main road leading north out of Rome, the Via Flaminia. Look at the street names are up there in marble. They must be the most splendid street names anywhere. Inscribed are those names of the streets on marble blocks. In the 4th century, the emperor moved the capital away from Rome to Constantinople. The emperor's name was Constantine, the first Christian emperor. And the barbarians, shortly after that, they pushed their way through and occupied Rome, and Rome entered the Dark Ages. And Rome might have disappeared altogether, because it was reduced to a village of about 7,000. But it revived because it became the great center of the Christian church. Why was that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, because the two great Christians, St. Peter and St. Paul, were both martyred in Rome on the same day, June the 29th, 67 AD. Here's the other side, here on the right-hand side, you see, the other side of this tremendous gate done by Bernini. Nobody beautified Rome more than the great Bernini, not even Michelangelo. And there you see an entrance, quite a nice entrance into the Villa Borghese. We're following the line of the Aurelian Wall, built by the Emperor Aurelian in 271 AD. Must have been very sad for the Romans to see this wall going up, because before that time, Rome was so powerful that it was unthinkable that she could be taken by anyone. But by the 3rd century, the barbarians were already giving the Romans some headaches, and they thought they would be more secure if they could have a wall around them. This wall goes for 14 miles around Rome, and there are 14 gates that gave access through the wall, and it's beautifully preserved. Interesting to know that until 1910, all of Rome lay within that Aurelian Wall. Now, of course, the city has spread out to 4 times that area. Now, we shall eventually be making our way through the wall. The first Roman wall was built by the Etruscans, the Servian Wall. And it was also the Etruscans who preceded the Romans who built the Cloaca Maxima, that famous sewerage system that is still in operation today. The Villa Borghese on the left-hand side is named after the Borghese family who provided Pope for Rome, and it became the property of the Italian state in the year 1900. The Prince Borghese cannot set foot in Italy. He attempted to seize control of the state in a putsch. He is a member of the neo-fascist party. And the plot was discovered and he fled before he could be arrested. Should he set foot in Italy tomorrow, he'd be immediately arrested and tried. Now we're going to drive along the Via Veneto, which we did earlier on, but it's much better to see the Via Veneto at night, because it is the center of nightlife. What used to be the center of La Dolce Vita, where Sophia Loren, used to sit drinking an aperitif, wearing her dark glasses to prevent people recognizing her. How do we enter? The other way?
Yes. So just the show. Right.
Yeah, it's an incredible thing, these people try very, very hard to become well known. But once they are well known, they wear dark glasses to prevent people recognizing them.
Same as you.
Yeah. Sophia Loren, was wanted for tax evasion. And so she was a tax exile. Well, eventually she decided that she loved Italy so much she simply had to come back and face the music. And so she returned and she was sentenced, and she did a term in jail, but of course she was treated very well inside the prison. I understand that she had colour television and she had meals brought to her, prepared for her by a special chef. Just like some of the heads of the mafiosi still, they virtually run the prisons of Italy. Now we enter the wall, we find ourselves in the Via Veneto. Only a short street really, but it's always lively. You see sidewalk cafes. The weather's good, for most of the year, so people get out onto the streets and they like to sit and talk and drink an aperitif. An aperitif, you don't have that in the States, you know. Aperitivo. It's the kind of thing that gives you an appetite for the meal to follow. All of these aperitifs are bitter. They're either bitter, very bitter, or very, very bitter. So they're not normally to American taste. One of the most bitter is they're called, funny enough, Americano. Vino clear. Yes. The Venator, the name of this place, the name of this street, the Venator. Oh, enjoying. See, the Daily America is on sale here as a newspaper that is put out for the American community that lives in Rome, a business community, also lots of tourists. You can also get the Herald Tribune, which is a much better paper, but the Herald Tribune doesn't arrive the same day. The Daily American you can get on the same day. Done, a very famous, elegant sidewalk cafe there on the left, and adjoining it is the Excelsior, very old established, very fine hotel, and the Café de Paris, another famous sidewalk cafe there on the right, but less elegant than the Done opposite. And coming up soon is the American Embassy. Bom, ba, bom, 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 ba, bom, bom, bom. Beautiful building. And the French have also a magnificent embassy building, the Farnese Palace, designed by Michelangelo. The British Embassy is a very ugly building, very modern. And we see here hotels lining the right-hand side of the road. You look at the palm trees on the left, which is an indication that they have a nice warm climate here. And there's a church a little bit further along on the left-hand side, which is rather unusual because all over the walls of that church, well, we're turning left, but if you were to carry on, and on the left-hand side where that bus is over there, there's on the walls of that church are human bones all over the walls. Offices of airlines over here, this particular section. We'll be coming back soon, ladies and gentlemen, to the hotel. Just a brief drive around to give you the idea of the atmosphere of the place at night. Tomorrow we start pretty early with our local guide, Amelia. Busy day. Starting our tour tomorrow at 8 o'clock. If I can meet you in the lobby of the hotel at 7:15, and we'll go off to the breakfast room. I don't even know yet myself which one it's going to be. And there you see is a copy of the Moses of Michelangelo. The man who did that committed suicide. And illuminated is the fountain of the Piazza della Republica, which was put there in 1886, finished in 1901. Formerly called Piazza Eccedra because of the Excedra, which was on the left-hand side, the bars of Diocletian, the facade of the bars of Diocletian. They held 3,000 people. They were the largest bars of Rome. Other famous bars were the bars of Karakala. And the Romans used to go there, you know, to meet their friends. They had various kinds of bars, Turkish bars, you know, hot water, cold water, libraries. And, you know, when you go through some of these dark alleys in Rome, suddenly you come face to face with something that is truly beautiful. That's why they say that Rome is a city of magic around the corner. Have you heard that expression? A city of magic around the corner. When for example, you go off to see the Trevi Fountain tomorrow, you have to go through some narrow, insignificant-looking streets before you come face-to-face with the Trevi Fountain. If it were London, a thing like that would never have been put there in the first place. Nothing so imaginative, as fantastic as the Trevi Fountain would have been erected there in London. In Paris, the whole area around it would have been completely demolished in order to show off the Trevi Fountain in a good light. But here in Rome, you turn a few dark, narrow streets, and then you come face to face with something beautiful and imaginative that was put there a couple of 100 years ago. So Rome is a city of magic around the corner. And that's a lens to the shortest walk, the excitement of a treasure hunt. There's a particular colour, dominant colour in Rome, and it's a kind of a cross between a red and a yellow. It's very beautiful, very soft colour. Of course, you know, to give all these buildings a new paint job would really change the whole effect, the whole beauty of Rome. It's an ochre, I suppose that's the word you would use, an ochre colour, and it's found nowhere else. Okay, folks, here we are, home sweet home. Have a good night's rest. I hope you enjoyed this evening. Good. Thank you.